Interested in some cursed magic items for your fantasy setting? Curses are a very old trope, no matter if it's linked to an item or spoken by a witch. They have served as warning against defying morality and for fear of angering the gods. All of that good stuff. However, when dealing with cursed magic items, we need to avoid it becoming cliches. And as you know by now, that is what this channel is all about. We'll look at 4 steps to create interesting and immersive cursed items. So let's get into it. Hi guys, my name is Jesper and welcome to the Fane of Fantasy. This channel is all about giving you inspiration to master your craft and create fantasy that will truly immerse your audience. A quick follow-up on the question of the week. Out of the 3 worst jobs in the Middle Ages, it seems that Geoffrey thought a squire the better option. Apart from the fact that it could get you killed, I think I might agree with him. On the other hand, you could die from the other jobs too, but at least this one doesn't make you wade through a mud-infested leech pool. Well, I really don't know which one of the jobs was the worst one, to be honest, but go and check out that video if you missed it. I've placed a link to it right here on the screen to make it easy. Let's get into the creation of not only a magic item, but a cursed one. When it comes to such items, they very easily become either lame, like a misplaced comical relief, or a frustrating one that is all too powerful and kind of takes over the whole story and plot because of its constant presence. It's probably best to start simple. Consider that a cursed item is a magical one, and giving it a bit of character just makes it better. So now I'm not thinking about the singing sword. Was that not in some kind of cartoon or something? I can't remember. Anyway, but that's not what I'm talking about. But giving it an engraving in mystical script, or a strange glow, or perhaps a swirl of energy inside the gemstone that sits at the end of the staff. You know, something that makes it stand apart from the mundane. That's the description of the item. And once we have that in place, we can move on to step 2, which is making the cursed item something that the characters desire. I hate it when something as powerful as a cursed item just kind of drops into the character's lap, or basically forces itself into the story. It should be something that the character is actively seeking out. So how do you do that? Well, it could be that the cursed item is needed. Otherwise, a life-important task cannot be accomplished, for example. Or perhaps the item is what the Dark Lord needs. You know, like in the Lord of the Rings, where Sauron wants the One Ring from Frodo. So our hero just have to do the necessary to save the world. You can also bring it into play more indirectly, in that it's perhaps the powers of the cursed item that actually saved the character in some kind of situation. So no matter what you decide, just make sure that you create a compelling reason for the character to want to obtain the cursed item. It should never be forced on the character. With all of that decided, you also need to consider how the item will be useful. I think that this is important to do before we move into its cursed properties. If you watch this channel for a while, you might think that this is a bit of out of character for me, as my mind tends to go directly to the darker stuff. But well, let's try to mix things up for a change here. and look at how the item can actually be useful for the character. The reason for this is that once a character finds usefulness from the cursed item, they will also grow more attached to it, and that only makes things that more interesting. Think of a situation where the cursed item's powers can come into use in a positive way, and then let that transpire either right away or perhaps just when the character has had enough of the cursed items. Because cursed items should also be, well, cursed. So let's move into that part. I think the most interesting cursed items are those where we don't know that it's a cursed item right from the start. In these cases, it's best if you start out with some foreshadowing. It could be something as simple as some physical changes affecting the character, maybe like a rash on the skin or a changing hair color or something like that. It could also be changes in the cursed item itself that tells us that there must be more to this sword than anything ordinary. If the blade begins to vibrate in the hero's hand when he kills a foe, or a necklace becomes warm every time dusk comes near, all of that is definitely something that forewarns us that something is not quite what it seems. Then you of course have to let it play out. Reveal the true nature of the cursed item. So now every cursed item should have a purpose, just like we talked about in the video about villains. I've added a link here on the screen for that in case you need to check that one out. But in that video I said that all great villains needs to have a solid reason for doing evil things. And the same thing, I believe, applies to cursed items. So every item cursed needs a history. It became cursed for a reason. The point of a cursed item is to make the story more interesting and raise the stakes, not just to add conflict for the sake of conflict. What I want you to consider is, where did the curse come from and how does it work? So now the curse could come in all shapes and forms, from ordinary bad luck to attempt to kill you in a certain circumstance. But whatever you decide as how the curse works, think first of where it came from. If the original owner died in a fire, then the cursed item should resemble that. So perhaps it begins to burn the character's skin. Maybe it makes him compelled to set things on fire. Whatever it is, tie the origins and the effect of the curse together. When the character then needs to dive into finding out what this all means, then you have an interesting story on your hands. If you can then let this story play a part in the overall story arc, well, even better. When done right, you let the foreshadowing come into its full right, in that if the character dreamed of committing a murder, for example, then make them wake up with blood-covered hands and the cursed dagger lying strangely on the nightstand where they didn't leave it the night before. What do you think of cursed items in fantasy? If you like them, please make sure to hit the like button below, and also tell a friend about this video. Let's just recap the 4 different steps to create an interesting cursed item. So number 1 was the description. Make it stand apart from the mundane. Number 2 was desire, so make the item something that the character wants or needs. Number 3, usefulness, so turn it out, so it should turn out that the cursed item have some beneficial properties. And number 4, history, decide where it came from and how that forms the curse itself. What is important to remember is that every good curse should have a benefit that outweighs the curse side. So you want the character to feel compelled to use the item. You know, managing that slippery slope where the character in reality understands that the continuous use of the item is sooner or later going to bring them harm. That's a story. Perhaps this is also where we should center the question of the week. Do you agree that these 4 steps will help to facilitate better cursed items? That's the question of the week. So just say yes or no in the comment section below. And if you can add in why, that's even better. And of course, don't forget that if this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe to get more videos on creating immersing fantasy worlds, setting and characters. I have some really exciting stuff brewing at the moment for the future, which I'll come back to when the time is right. A few formalities still needs to fall into place, but it's great stuff that will be interesting for you as well. That's just a little teaser for you there, sorry for that. In writing, I'm about a quarter into the 2nd edition of my map making book. Some chapters have been completely rewritten, and I feel that they do the subject matter even better justice than the 1st edition did. So I'll keep you informed about the book, but it will be a little while yet before it's done. In the meantime, I would love to see you over on Patreon. There is a link right here on the screen and in the description field below. So check it out. For as little as a cursed $1 a month, you will get into the reward program. You can also get a free behind the scenes look at my Keystone Bone trilogy if you just click right here on the banner, on the YouTube banner channel where it reads exclusive download, and it'll take you through to my website where you should just scroll down to the button, and there you can download. I hope this video inspired you to create better cursed items on your own. So stay safe out there and see you next Monday.